I, Mona Verma, welcome you all to this much-awaited panel with none other than the well-known media figure, Rajdeep Sardesai. Rajdeep Sardesai is an Indian news anchor, journalist, and author. He was a consulting editor and an anchor of India Today television. He was the editor-in-chief of global broadcast news that included CNN, IBN, IBN7, and IBN Lokmat before resigning in July 2014. He's won various awards, to name a few. The Padma Shri awarded by the Government of India in 2008, the International Broadcasters Award for coverage of the 2002 Gujarat riots, and the Ramnath Goenka Excellence in Journalism Award in 2006. In ENBA Awards 2020, Rajdeep Sardesai received the Lifetime Achievement Award. He's written various books. 2019, How Modi Won India is also the mainstay of our conversation today. Newsman Tracking India in the Modi Era, 2014, The Election That Changed India, and Democracy 11. His co-authored chapter, The Truth Hurts, Gujarat and the Role of the Media in the book Gujarat, The Making of Tragedy, published by Penguin. The book is about 2002 Gujarat riots. I, Mona Verma, am an author, haiku, tanka poet, and a corporate coach. I will be discussing Rajdeep Sardesai's book, How Modi Won India. Welcome, sir.
Thank you so much, Mona, for that very, very kind introduction. And I'm delighted to be here with you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Here is a synopsis of the book. There is no point discussing a book if the viewers do not really know what the book is all about. There's a brief synopsis here. 23rd May 2019, when the results of the general elections were announced, Narendra Modi and the BJP-led NDA coalition were voted back to power with an overwhelming majority. To some, the numbers of Modi's victory came as something of a surprise. But for others, the BJP's triumph was a vindication of their belief in the government and its policies. But irrespective of one's political standpoint, one thing was beyond dispute, that this was a landmark verdict, one that deserved to be reported, analyzed with intelligence, and certainly without a bias. Rajdeep Sardesai's new book, 2019, How Modi Won India, does just that. And I have read the book, believe me. What was it that gave Modi an edge over the opposition for the second time in 5 years? How was the BJP able to trounce its rivals in states that were once the Congress bastions? What was the core issue in the election, a development agenda or national pride? As he relives the excitement of the many twists and turns that took place over the last 5 years, culminating in the 2019 election results, Rajdeep helps a reader make sense of the contours and characteristics of a rapidly changing India, its politics, and its newsmakers. If the 2014 election changed India, Rajdeep says 2019 may well have defined what new India is likely to be all about. 2019, How Modi Won India, takes a look at this fascinating story, which is still developing. We all know Sardesai's own political views are liberal and moderate. He's a critic of the Bharatiya Janata Party's Hindutva worldview, but this does not prevent him from recognizing the underlying strengths of the BJP and its leadership. So guys, one formidable figure writing on another should be everything that's flammable and sharp-edged. So sir, let's begin with a question-answer session. So the title of your book is very interesting. How Modi Won India. Prima facie looks at the subject through the lens of the tactics deployed. Do you think it would have been any different if it was written from the point of view of why Modi won India? Is there an innuendo?
That's an interesting way to put it. If I looked at the why Modi won India, then I think I would be thrusting my opinion in a way on the reader. And my conscious, my conscious goal, both in my 2014 election book and the sequel in 2019, was to, as far as possible, tell the story. So the story is about how you win. Why you win becomes a lot about your own personal views about the politics of the BJP, or I was a little. I think if you have to tell a story, I think it's important. I mean, obviously, while writing a book like this, you will also tell the how and why. But I think how he won is more important. Why he won. Why he won will be, immediately the reactions will be polarizing. You'll have someone who will say, oh, he won because they've captured the electorate, or they've captured the entire voter machinery in this country. Why he won could be those who will then argue that, the rules of the game, there's no level playing field. While I have reflected on that, I don't believe that's the central focus. The central focus is I have tried to understand both in 2014 and 2019 how India has changed from what I call the Nehruvian era or the Nehruvian dominance of Indian politics to the age of what is increasingly I see as Moditva, more than even Hindutva. I call it Moditva. So it's Modi plus Hindutva in a way. And I think it was important to understand that transition as to how that's happened. How has a country changed so dramatically in the last decade? And therefore, it was how Modi won India, because 2014 was, in my view, the election that changed India, because it was the first time that you had a BJP majority government. Now it's about how a majority government was able to retain power.
Okay, that's a wonderful answer. But sir, as a very unbiased reader, the moment I saw the word how, to me it struck as, Sam Dam Dan Bhed, the Kautilya Shastra coming into play.
No, that's a fair enough observation. And, let's be honest, elections are about Sam Dam Danda Bhed at one level. Let's not pretend that, when you're fighting an election, you're not, applying for a job in a monastery. You're applying, you want power. It's about satta. It is Rajniti is about satta. There should be ideally a moral quotient to our politics. We should have there is a need for politics to increasingly appeal, I believe, at a personal level to a higher moral cause. But that's not the reality. The reality is that politics is fought as very, very competitively, 24/7, 365 days. And that's one of the changes that's taken place. I think elections have become far more competitive today than they were 40, 50 years ago. In the era of the Congress domination, there were fewer parties. And therefore, you were still, we still had the romance of the freedom movement, and that enabled the Congress to become the natural party of power. That has changed. So, if someone interprets how to mean Sam Dam Danda Bhed, at one level, there is Sam Dam Danda Bhed, no doubt about that. There has been an attempt to capture the election machinery. It hasn't started 7 years ago. We can go back to Indira Gandhi's playbook as well. And every political leader, wants at the end, I mean, his or her ultimate goal is power. And power is not something that can be achieved necessarily through a sort of moral crusade. That's perhaps why Gandhi, my belief is if poor Mahatma Gandhi contested elections today, he would struggle. Because, in this age of money power and muscle power, you can't play by the rules because the rules, unfortunately, are being subverted. I openly say that in the book and give examples of that. But, it's not just Sam Dam Danda Bhed. I think it would be wrong to look at electoral victories. We have become so critical of our politicians. Sab neta chor hai. They may well be, many of them have subverted political processes. Many of them have made, there has been corruption. But to suggest that's the only reason why they win elections would be wrong. There is a connect that they establish with the public that is important to understand how that has happened. And, that's one of the things I've attempted.
Yes. Well, every saint has a past and every sinner a future.
Absolutely. Well put. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So moving on, as you cover the journey of the PM from his days as a pracharak, right, in the beginning of the book. At that time, both of you were outsiders to Delhi's echelons of power. So to you, is Modi the same person you knew then? Which Modi has become the PM, the pracharak or the politician?
Very interesting question. Look, to my mind, we all evolve. No one remains static. To suggest that Narendra Modi ji of 2021 is the same person I met in 1990, I think would be a falsification. I think he has in his own way evolved. if you had asked me then when I first met him, when he was organizing the Rath Yatra, would this man be the next Prime Minister or future Prime Minister of India? I would have probably said no, and I would probably laughed it out. But I think one of the things that I've noticed about Mr. Modi is his ability to sort of move from his chapterization almost of his life, from being the pracharak to being a sort of general secretary of the party, then to becoming chief minister of Gujarat, then to becoming prime minister, then to becoming a two-time prime minister. There has been an evolution. I think one thing is clear. One common strand is ambition. Let's be clear. Mr. Modi, even in 1990, struck me as a very ambitious young man. He was then a young man. But the ambition was there, the desire, that hunger to sort of constantly grow. I think that has remained intact. Obviously, his life experiences have changed and perhaps have changed him. Then he was, I think he was far more accessible in the first instance than he is today. And now he's surrounded by the great walls of the Prime Minister's office, which he was not in those days. But he was a good communicator even then. He's an astute communicator even today. His ability to use the medium in those days was, of course, this was the pre-TV era when I met him. But even then, I sensed in him, I give this example of how we were struggling for a fax machine once during the Rath Yatra. And he was very, he organized it, made sure that everybody's copy would go in time. He understood the importance of the media even in that period. So there are similarities, obviously, and I think his unflinching commitment to Hindutva politics, which was there in 1990, is even there today. So in that sense, ideologically, you could argue that he's remained the same. But I think as a person, he's naturally evolved, some for the better, some for the worse, as we all do.
Yes, so we all morph into something else, because if a caterpillar does not turn into a butterfly, it dies a worm.
Yeah, it does. I mean, it's not always, but, a caterpillar turning into a butterfly. Look, I think obviously when, you become the prime minister, the most powerful person in the country, you are a bit of a butterfly. But it also, I think, takes away from some of the personal touch that you maybe had when you didn't have all this pomp and privilege around you. Then you could be a little bit more human. I think I find this as people become, particularly the power game, there a certain impersonal nature comes in, because everything is according to protocol. You're very conscious of your position, and therefore you're a little wary of the media. You're no longer as open and accessible as you were, and maybe you become a little insecure. It's a strange thing to say.
Sir. That's given in a position like that. It's given.
Yeah. So the butterfly, or in this case, the peacock, since Mr. Modi was pictured with the peacock, all its plumes are not all of the same color. There may be some which you may have which may be slightly problematic at times. But I think that's why I said, I think one should be less judgmental and just tell the story. I want the reader to understand, the story before me, sort of being overly opinionated, as we are often on TV, and thrusting our opinions on the reader. I've been very conscious. I believe my job is to be a storyteller as a journalist.
Yeah, you did not, in the book, when I was reading the book, you did not basically impose your thoughts on us. You tried convincing the reader. You did not try to copy the reader, convincing.
Yes, I think that would be a good way to tell it. But you see, there are so many, more than, all I'm doing is putting the facts, trying to tell stories, anecdotes. I think, book writing can be of two forms. You can write a book as a kind of, opinionated editorial-like commentary. It can be a political commentary, which some people do. But the other way to look at a book is to tell the book as a story, because I think Indian politics is so fascinating, and there are so many stories to be told that I prefer telling the story rather than making it about political commentary. It should be, I think, a political story.
Yes, sir. Along the way, sir, I'm coming to the next question. Along the way, the Prime Minister's relationship with the media took the somersault, between the caterpillar and the butterfly. So he was an eloquent orator, always, and shared much with the media, but the coverage of 2002 riots was a watershed moment. No one missed your interview in the bus, sir, and those icy cold vibes that could even make the Chandras feel like Death Valley or Thar in the dog days of summer. Do you think it could have been handled any differently, sir?
I'm sorry for sighing when I say that. I don't know. Look, that's one of the, I actually interestingly had a working relationship with Mr. Modi. I'd like to call it a professional part, certainly mainly professional, but also at one level personal. I have a Gujarat background. My grandfather was a police officer from there. I was born in Ahmedabad as a result. And I spent many holidays. I have a sort of personal, emotional attachment in a way with Gujarat and Gujaratis, you could say. So there was the personal angle. And I think what 2002 did, particularly in my relationship with Mr. Modi, it made it a little bit more fraught. It became a little bit more difficult for the two of us post 2002 to have their quote unquote, perhaps a normal relationship, because in all this surround sound, there was a sense, the media is running a campaign against Mr. Modi. I at a personal level, I maintain I have never tried to. My belief has been I have been critical of the way of those days in Gujarat. And if there was any other leader, my attitude would have been the same. People can read my writings on 92, 93. We brought out a book actually called When Bombay Burned. And I was frankly far more critical both of the Congress government in power then and of the Shiv Sena in that book and their role in the rioting. One in term, so it's not as if it was about but 2002 played out in the age of TV. It was India's first communal riot in the age of TV. As a result, I think it stuck in people's memory, including that of Mr. Modi. And maybe as a result, our relationship got fraught, and that interview at the bottom of a bus perhaps reflected that. Mr. Modi felt he was being victimized, hounded in some way. And I, as a journalist, felt it was my duty to continue to ask the questions. So I guess that relationship went pear-shaped as a result. But I have no regrets as such. I still believe that, my job is basically to professionally assess a politician. And that's what I've tried to do. And I hope that one day, Mr. Modi and I don't think journalists and politicians can ever be friends, but that we can restore an element of the, I think, the mutual respect that was there at one time in our relationship.
But sir, when I saw that interview, when I was researching on what to ask you, I was reminded of this, that jahan se shuru kiya tha safar, log wahi aakar khade ho gaye, ajnabi the tab, log fir ajnabi ho gaye.
नहीं बिल्कुल, मेरा तो उससे ये कहना है कि मैं तो हमेशा कहता हूँ कि मैं वहीं का वहीं रह गया। जो 1990 में रिपोर्टर मोदी जी से पहली बार मिला था, या 2012 में वो जो इंटरव्यू किया, या अब भी आपसे बात कर रहा हूँ, मैं पत्रकार रह गया। मोदी जी प्रचारक से जनरल सेक्रेटरी होते हुए, मुख्यमंत्री होते हुए प्रधानमंत्री बन गए। उनकी जिंदगी में ज्यादा फर्क आया है।
तो सर तरक्की तो उन्होंने कर ली।
हाँ, देखिए, आपने बटरफ्लाई का एक ही एनालॉजी दी। मैं हमेशा कहता हूँ, कैटरपिलर कैन बिकम अ बटरफ्लाई इफ यू आर अ पावरफुल और अ पावरफुल मैन. Reporter must remain a cockroach. The journalist must be the cockroach, because the journalist must be the why cockroach, and I have a reason for it. कि कल अगर न्यूक्लियर बॉम्ब गिर जाए, गॉड फॉरबिड, तो हम सब मर जाएंगे, बट कॉकरोच जिंदा रहेगा। क्यों? क्योंकि कॉकरोच को अगले दिन रिपोर्ट करना है कि कल सारे लोग मर गए, वहां न्यूक्लियर बॉम्ब हुआ था। So cockroach is the role that a reporter needs to play. I'm still the cockroach. And you can swat
going
me
into
away.
every conduit.
We go into every possible hole, and we survive. We are survivors in a way.
But sir, when you say that journalists and politicians can never be friends, that reminds me of something. Then why was the interview with Sonia Gandhi dealt with such soft questions? Have you been kinder to her than to Modi ji? And is this the reason that he calls you at one of his nemesis?
It's a very good question again, and I think it needs to be answered. First of all, please don't call me sir. I'm Rajdeep. But the fact is that, very interestingly, and I think I've written about it somewhere, not in this book, but that Sonia Gandhi at the last moment or her team decide that there will be no political questions to be asked.
Yes.
Now, the option, therefore, was to cancel the interview, which was to be in Allahabad, where I was, and just go on and allow the interview to be done by someone else, or to use the interview to try and prod her and hope that she will eventually agree to do political questions. I adopted the second route. And therefore, if you see in the interview, every time I turn to a political subject, she said, no, not today. No political question. Now, have I been soft? No, I'll tell you, it's very interesting. Very few people know this. I interviewed Mrs. Gandhi in 2005, and there were a few questions that she was distinctly uncomfortable with. And if you see that interview, she was not happy and I was asking those questions. So they have been asked. Unfortunately, she has given much more limited access to us as journalists. And therefore, we've never really had the opportunity to perhaps ask some of the questions that we would all like to ask. At the end of the day, and this is through our political class now, they don't want to answer anymore the questions that we would like to ask as journalists, as citizens. So they want interviews to be done on their terms. And as I said, as a result of that, an interview which I would have ideally liked to ask questions on everything possible, we just didn't, we had a choice of giving up the interview or asking. So in the end, maybe in hindsight, I should have just said, sorry, if Mrs. Gandhi doesn't want to answer political questions, then, I won't do the interview. But today, media is so competitive that you don't want to not say no. You don't want to say no because kal koi aur kar lega. But that's the way it was. The interview was eventually about Mrs. Gandhi on Indira Gandhi rather than Mrs. Gandhi on her politics. And so it had nothing to do with me being soft on them. In fact, if you look, we actually, when I was at CNN IBN, broke the story of how Ottavio Quattrocchi, the Beaufort's accused, his accounts had been defrozen and for his benefit. Now, if I was, pro Gandhi, why would I do that? Or, why would we do those stories? And this is when they were in power. Please understand, it's easier today when they're in opposition to ask all questions of the opposition. The challenge in journalism is always to ask questions of those in power. So you should judge me from 2005 to 14 or 2004 to 14 when UPA was in power and all the questions that we asked them. And then, then you can claim whether someone is, the kind of stories we did this. We did a story on the Rajiv Gandhi Trust, which was controversial at the time. But, again, it was done while the Congress was in power, not when they are in opposition.
But sir, this interview reminded me of the kids who flunk and then they have a retest. तो उनके लिए ना हल्का क्वेश्चन पेपर बनाया जाता है, उनके मतलब और उनकी काबिलियत के अनुसार सवाल डाले जाते हैं.
देखिए उनको, that interview was done against a backdrop. I think it was Indira Gandhi's centenary, 100 years of Mrs. Gandhi, and they were doing this. And so they wanted the interview to be focused around Indira Gandhi, which was eventually fine because I thought, we'll ask about emergency, which she did answer. Sonia Gandhi in that interview does. But, as I said, if an interviewee at the last moment says no political questions, what are you going to do? I will only talk about this. That's something you then have to take a call. Maybe, as I said, in hindsight, I should have said, then do it with someone else. But competitive spirit say, nahi, yaar, Sonia Gandhi mil rahi hai, interview karna chahiye.
Yeah, I know. I've seen that in various narratives. Even in Tavleen Singh's Darbar, it is the same setup. I've read her book just recently. So coming to the next question, in your comments, you've repeatedly stated that the press has lost its credibility as reporters. It's like telling on your own coterie, They gather the hearsay and then they showcase. And how many actually take pains to investigate the real reason behind the action of a political leader?
Yeah, look, one of the more difficult chapters.
Maybe this is what has also irked the PM. For example,
go ahead.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Yeah, go on. Good.
No, you please go.
For example, this is also part of my question that, the sting operation cash for votes. You speak about that in the book as well. The BJP wanted you to bring that into the public domain, but it wasn't brought. And hence he is using, but later.
This is one of the myths. It was brought. It was not brought at the time that the BJP wanted us to bring it out.
Yes.
We brought it out 3 weeks later because you can't investigate a sting in 24 hours. You have to fit in various pieces. And there were legal issues involved, all of which needed to be sorted out before it brought. You see, unfortunately, today we are in an era where people look, we are unable to see the complexities of news, of doing stories. So, and then a propaganda, then you create this sort of narrative which builds into some kind of propaganda ki dikhaya nahi, jo jhoot hai dikhaya, Amar Singh jail chale gaye. How many people know that? How many people remember that Amar Singh went to jail based on that? And that there are, I mean, yes, you could argue, why didn't you bring it out on day one? And, there's a story where lawyers and others were also involved. And of course, I feel disappointed. As a journalist, I feel disappointed that we could not, put it out on day one. And we put it out. Yeah, but, to say that we didn't is wrong. That to say that there was no action is wrong. At the end of the day, we provided all the tapes to Parliament. It was for the Speaker then to who ordered a police inquiry to ensure, based on the documents and the tapes that we had provided, that justice was done. Right now, I mean, I am not the investigating authority. I'm not the police. I am only the journalist who's telling the story. So I think, and there also, I think it was, one of the problems with that story was that those who are involved in the sting belong to a particular party. And I think as journalists, we should have, in hindsight, maintained a distance from a party, because, then you get caught up in their political games and their political objectives, which are never our case. We just wanted to expose how even a Parliament vote of confidence can be bought and sold. And it possibly was happening on both sides. My limited point again is that I think we've got to, today journalism, like society, has also got polarized. आप हमारे साथ हैं या उनके साथ हैं? Are you with us or with them?
Yeah.
And I have desperately over these years tried to find that middle path at the cost of being called a monkey balancer. I believe journalism must lie in shades of grey, not black or most of journalism is not black or white, right? There are complexities.
That is relatable. I mean, black and white.
Yeah, but we want the black and white answers. We don't like people saying, ye bhi sahi hai, but. You see, that this has happened, but. Now, if in a riot, someone has, let's say, tragically a woman is raped and her children are killed before her eyes. There is no gray there. That's black and white. Someone's loss needs to be told. But even, but unfortunately, in other, in stories that sort of, you see, today, even in a riot, people will say, lekin usne bhi, if I report on 2002, someone will say, but 1984 mein kya hua? Yeah, 1984 मैं report कर लेता अगर मैं journalism में होता, तब मैं college में था. But let us not engage in whataboutery or try to sort of defend the indefensible or get trapped in black versus white. I think the real, that's why, as I said, even the character of Mr. Modi or indeed any politician should be explored much more in shades of grey, wherein there will be some aspects that may, that you may sort of find attractive almost, other aspects that are troubling. And I think at the end of the day, I want to leave it to the reader to judge the individual.
But, sir, when it comes to Modi ji, I feel that right from gas cylinders to toilets to rural housing to bank accounts, the Modi government has not only delivered the benefits, but they've also made it known that they have done so. So they use mobile phones to reach to the voters directly, particularly through WhatsApp, other media forms, Man Ki Baat, Ayushman Bharat, Swachh Bharat, Exam Warriors, tweets that cascade like the Niagara Falls. You only said that about 50,000 WhatsApp group in Bengal alone, right?
Absolutely.
He is talking.
Absolutely. You hit the nail on the head.
And even Kejriwal has taken a cue from him. He's conducting town halls and has a great media visibility. But he doesn't want to talk to media people because he feels that, and he uses the term Lutyens reporters as a pejorative term for all his critics. Why is that so? Sir, कुछ तो मजबूरियां नहीं होंगी ना, यूं ही कोई बेवफा नहीं होता.
नहीं, आपने बिल्कुल, you have hit the nail hard on the head in explaining how and why Modi won. Because look, it is one thing to have government schemes and to announce benefit schemes. The other challenge is twofold. One is to ensure that those benefits actually reach those who are the deserving beneficiaries. And number two is to be able to advertise it. You're having a book fair, you will want to advertise it on social media. I have a prime time show, I'm going to advertise it on social media or Twitter or wherever else. We're all in, to say that, and this is not just true of Mr. Modi, but other leaders are also, why are you spending on advertising and marketing? Look, as I say, you're not in politics to run a monastery. You're in politics to retain power. So if I have a scheme which is working, I'm going to tell people about it. Now, you and I could maybe differ on whether Mr. Modi ji's, for example, photograph should be on a vaccination certificate. Should a vaccination certificate also get identified with the Prime Minister? It's at the end of the day, my taxpayers' money, which is going into providing these free vaccines. So it actually belongs to all. It doesn't belong to Mr. Modi or an individual or the government of India. But I don't hold it against the Prime Minister or any political leader who is able to effectively market his achievements or his schemes. Because, what else do you expect leaders to do? Right? Our leaders supposed to be complete. If they are able to establish a connect with the people, good luck to them. I think the challenge for them is how do you match those promises that you make in all your campaigns with the actual performance? And if there's a mismatch, they will pay the price for it. If they take credit for schemes which have actually not delivered benefits, they will pay a price for it. My belief is, and this is one of the successes of Mr. Modi, is that he has been able to almost create a community of labhartis or beneficiaries of his various programs. And I don't think we understand just how important that is sometimes, because we don't see these schemes in our daily life, because many of us may not be the beneficiaries of it, but there are millions out there. When I've said, why has the BJP's vote gone up? And this is a why. Why has the BJP's vote gone up from, say, 7 crore votes that they got in 2009 up to 21 crores that they got in 2019 in the space of a decade? It cannot be explained simply by, say, oh, Hindutva, or, ye to nationalism ki lair thi. To my mind is various factors, one of which is the fact that, the government claims that they have about 15 crore to 20 crore beneficiaries of government programs. Let's assume it's an exaggeration. 10 crore bhi zyada mile hain, to uska effect to milta hai. So I think advertising, marketing, messaging is more and more important. We are in a multimedia universe. We're all in it. It would be hypocritical of me to single out the politicians and say, "Tum kyo kar rahe ho?" jab hum sab kar rahe hain. And some are good at it, some are not. So I think it's a strength of a leader to be able to market his achievement.
Political marketing and headline management, of course. I mean, there is a desire to get the optics, right? Selling Gujarat model to the world and having very flashy business summits like Vibrant Gujarat and having very catchy slogans, Mera Desh Badh Raha Hai, Made in India, Saaf Niyat, Sahi Vikas, and all those things. You also mentioned that why won't they do it? And that is what I'm saying. You've also mentioned that in the Ashoka Hotel, there's an annual conclave where the government showcases its achievement with a PowerPoint deck and whatnot. So why can't the Congress also do the same? If Modi ji can give an interview to Akshay Kumar, you only said, why can't Rahul Gandhi give it to, with all due respect to Deepika Padukone? Who stopped him?
Oh, absolutely. No. Look, as I said, I think marketing, advertising is just one of the various weapons that is available in our political system to a leader. Where I have a problem with it is that it's not a level playing field, because the resources that one side has compared to the other are hugely different, right? Your ability to sort of monopolize prime time space, and I mentioned it, if 70% of prime time space goes, or 80% goes to one leader and barely 15 to 20% to the entire opposition, then it's not a level playing field. And that's one difference, I think, between elections in the US and in India. In the US, there are, clear regulations on funding, on contributions, on how much airtime, making sure that every channel gives almost equal airtime to the contenders. In India, that doesn't happen. And that is a problem, because if the media plays an increasingly important role.
So what happens in India is that when a rural woman goes to cast her vote, on the ballot paper, she does not recognize the Kamal ka phool. She is asking for Modi's photo to be able to make her stamp. Ki mohar kahan lagaye? Modi ji to hai nahi. So that is, Modi is so larger than life, because through these schemes, he has actually reached these people. Chahe kitni bhi labharti scheme ho, Ujjwala Yojana ho, Shauchalaya ho, Har Ghar Jal ho, as compared to the mute PM we've had for the last.
My only thing to that, Mona, and I
10 years
this
before
instance,
Modi
as you know, in the book,
it's like, larger than life, sir.
No, I agree. But as I say, I start the book with this instance that you give of this old lady in Rai Bareilly who can't recognize Kamal ka phool, but will immediately recognize Modi ji. And, as a result, sort of votes for the BJP. the point is that many schemes have existed in the past also. ऐसा नहीं है कि मनमोहन सिंह के टाइम पे कोई स्कीम नहीं थी. Manrega, for example, but he called it Mahatma Gandhi National Employment Guarantee Act. Now, who knows that if there was a similar Manrega, if today when Mr. Modi does a scheme like Ujjwala, right, the scheme is immediately identified everywhere. Mr. Modi's photo is there. Ayushman Bharat, all these schemes. Now, you and I may have a problem at one level with what I see as self-promotion, but as I said at the outset, it is part of life today. And you are quite right that if Mr. Modi is interviewed by Akshay Kumar, nothing stops Rahul Gandhi from Deepika Padukone or Salman Khan or whoever he or she were to choose, right? You have to also, let's be clear, there are limits to all of this. Advertising promotion will not win you an election. It is one of the weapons you have available to you. And since it's a competitive Mahabharat, you will use every weapon available to you. I have a bit of a problem, as I said, with the inability to create a level playing field for the system. The system needs to ensure, I believe, that resources are available during elections in a manner that one side does not monopolize them. Because then it becomes a capture of the election system. Now, I know here it's my opinion coming through, but that's my fear. That's my...
But Sir, Jairam Ramesh has also said that the Nirmal Bharat... Sorry, please go on.
No, you're saying Jairam Ramesh has said there was a Nirmal Bharat before a Swachh
Abhiyan, and Modi borrowed our idea, changed the name to Swachh Bharat Abhiyan, but he marketed it better. So that's what I'm saying. Your hands were not tied behind your back. Why didn't you market it that way? What stopped you from doing it?
No, I absolutely. And look, we are in an age of where communication and marketing matters. You can't run away from that. Now, obviously, some of the communication at times leads to exaggeration, hyperbole, propaganda, fake news. And that's our job as journalists to be more diligent, pointed out that every time, let's say, the Prime Minister makes a speech, we should be also doing fact checking. That's our job. Eventually, it is for the voter and or the viewer, reader to decide what he or she feels is right or wrong. Per se, I don't think there is anything wrong in an advertising marketing blitz. At the end of the day, that's not enough. It can't be the be-all.
Of course. It's just
you can't reduce politics to a slogan. It can happen on a TV channel. It shouldn't happen. See, democracy is in recession, according to me, if everything is reduced to a slogan or a soundbite. And I think we have to be conscious of that. Beyond that, how can I stop any political party or leader from effectively advertising his or her achievements?
Cannot. And sir, also another thing, when I was reading the book, it comes across that Modi's success also rides on a horse called the debacle of Congress. So if you see the Congress cronies, they remain the same. The tone and volume of advice to the Hala command is still coming from the same obsolete mindset, who have a car but don't know how to drive it, or worse still, they feel that there is only one person who knows how to drive it. Whereas the new cabinet by Modi Sarkar is a shining example of bringing in people with no nepotic crutches. The unfortunate experience of Pilot and Scindia Science revealed that Congress is a house divided against itself. You have only cited in the book that when Manohar Lal Khattar became the CM of Haryana, so he was a Punjabi Khattar, and then others objected to Amit Shah, saying that he will not be able to control the warring factions, to which Amit Shah replied, there are no factions in BJP. There's only one faction, and that is Modi.
Look, let me say, jo jeeta wo Sikandar. Aaj hum kehte hain, we do it in a way ki aaj BJP mein sab kuch gun hai aur Congress pe koi gun nahi. Ye bhi sachai nahi hai. ऐसे नहीं है कि बीजेपी में फैक्शन नहीं है, ऐसे नहीं है कि बीजेपी में जातिवाद नहीं होता, ऐसे नहीं है कि बीजेपी में डिनेस्टीज नहीं है, वहां भी है. Lekin your first part is right, that the rise of Modi, and this is why, is also been accompanied by the decline of the Congress, right? So it's not as if it's not as if someone has risen in a without. I mean, he's risen because there's a vacuum. He's risen because the Congress was seen to have got increasingly discredited, and there are a variety of reasons for that. So in a way. Just as I mentioned, the BJP's votes have increased from 7 crores to 21 crores in a decade. The Congresses have increased only from about 9 crores to 11 crores. Why? Why is the younger generation not able to connect with the Congress party? There are multiple reasons. In fact, it requires another book. the decline of the Congress is like the decline of a great empire. It is a gradual decline of a political party that dominated Indian politics for about half a century. That's a long time, right? But I would also be very cautious in before I say कि कांग्रेस की decline हुई, लेकिन बीजेपी में सब कुछ अच्छा है. ऐसा नहीं है. Our political system, our political culture still today has nepotism at every level. Mr. Modi himself may be a product of of coming out against this sort of nepotistic culture, saying, look, मैं तो चाय वाला का बेटा था. And I think the Congress played into Mr. Modi's hands, because he got the opportunity to sort of re-emphasize his humble origins in a way and contrast it with the privileges of the Congress. And I think a new India is much more conscious of meritocratic sort of lineage, a sort of meritocratic rise as compared to someone who rises because of lineage or whose father, who's that person's father or parents were. So I think the Congress has a serious problem because they are unable to connect with the younger India. And unless you're able to connect with this younger, newer India, you're not going to win elections.
So let us talk about people who do not have a very astute political understanding. People like you and me, we read books, we are educated, we read our papers, we try to go within, explore further. But let's talk about people who do not have a political understanding. What do they see? They see one leader taking about 8 lakh kilometer rallies between 2014 to 2018 versus a cute boy's exotic holiday, especially when the party needed him the most. The truth is that Modi comes across as in full control, as a very charismatic leader with confident body language compared to the cutesy hand waving. There sure is a personality clash. Rahul, by contrast, looks like a very shy schoolboy who's been pushed into the dramatic class. In fact, on the stage, with all the spotlight on him, it is like trying to make a cat sing. You are exasperated and the cat is irritated. And as you said, very beautifully you put it once, that he never misses an opportunity to miss an opportunity. So, sir, Chaukidar Chor hai, the hug and wink in the parliament versus Prime Minister's hugging a weeping ISRO chief K7 after the Chandrayaan debacle. The normal Indian class sees the difference between those two hugs, and only a bat will not know the difference. अब दिल चाहता भी है कांग्रेस को मानने के लिए, विश्वास करने के लिए, लेकिन दिल मान
Mona, you are
नहीं है सर.
आपने बिल्कुल perfectly ये कहा. देखिए, just like a perfect storm, Rahul Gandhi is the perfect opponent for Modi. So you see, he makes it, nowadays we talk in this T20 language matchup. You are looking for someone who you think is your perfect, the perfect bowler to get a batsman out. The Modi versus Rahul sort of contest in that sense perfectly works to Mr. Modi's advantage, because he's able to then play up the fact that he comes in his humble origins, contrasted with Rahul's relatively privileged existence, the fact that he has been through the grind for 30-40 years as a politician working from the grassroots versus someone who's sort of parachuted in a way into politics, the fact that he's such an astute communicator, contrasted with perhaps Mr. Gandhi's more limited communication skills, all of that, the experience that he's built as chief minister versus Rahul's failure to have, taken up any ministerial post, he's able to, for Mr. Modi, he couldn't get a better opponent than Rahul Gandhi, right?
Absolutely. So there's positive, sorry.
Yeah, go ahead. No. Yeah. So that you're absolutely right in that sense that the Congress needs to introspect. I'm not saying that you do away. I don't think you can, it's also wrong to say, do away with the Gandhis. I think the Gandhis are an important glue for a party like the Congress. But the Congress also needs to recognize that India is changing. And in this changing India, how are you going to sort of, in a way, make yourself more attractive to a new India?
So there's paucity of time. So 2 very quick questions and very objective answers. You've called Modi and Amit Shah as a juggernaut, the brand and the executioner, a well-oiled machinery. You spoke about Mission Tripura, which was the red bastion for BJP. No presence even at the Panchayat level, but they went on in the State Assembly in March 2018 to win 36 over 60 seats, right? But if it is a well-oiled machinery, every machinery breaks down sometime. Does this machinery have a stepney?
Very good question. And the simple answer is, never predict the future in Indian politics. Also, just look in the last 2 years in the state elections, when Mr. Modi is not on the ticket, the BJP has lost an average of 12 to 14% vote.
Yeah.
I make an important statistical point. CSDS post-poll survey, 1 in every 3 voters who voted for the BJP voted only because of Mr. Modi.
Yeah.
Without Mr. Modi being there, the BJP becomes that much more vulnerable. And therefore, this so-called Ashwamedh Yagna that the BJP is on, conquering one state after the other, from Tripura to Maharashtra, they've had setbacks along the way. In Maharashtra was one setback, for example. But look, as you become more powerful, your opponents will also slowly start finding new ways to challenge you, to combat you. And therefore, my sense is the BJP will need a plan B at some time. You can't put all your eggs in Mr. Modi's basket, because nothing is permanent in Indian politics.
So would you have written the same book had it been no Modi as a BJP linchpin? Would have the opposition still love to hate the ruling government with the same fervor without Modi?
No, I didn't understand that. Sorry.
So would you have written the same book had it not been Modi as a BJP linchpin?
No, I would have. Look, I think in 2014, certainly one of the attractions was to write about Mr. Modi, write the book, because it was such a incredibly new phenomenon, right? The BJP winning an election by a majority for the first time. Would I have written it again in 2019? Look, I am a reporter. I write what, my model is a book called The Race to the White House, which was 3 books written by an American journalist, Theodore White, in the 1960s, about 3 consecutive US presidential elections. I'm not claiming to be him, but I believe it's important for our generations 20 years from now to know what happened in these elections. I grew up with the great 77 election in mind when Indira Gandhi lost, but there is so little literature on that. 77, how did she come back in 80? I believe that maybe 20, 25 years from now, people will continue to want to know what happened in that historic 2014 election, and in 2019, which in its own way was also a landmark election. So I would continue to write. It is, for me, the central, Mr. Modi being the central character makes it perhaps more attractive, but I would like to believe that election writing or monitoring and documenting elections will carry on irrespective of who the characters will keep changing. The author will remain the same.
सर 100 करोड़ का सवाल इन केबीसी, मोदी जी को किन से डर लगता है? मसूद अजहर और उसके टोडी से, वहां गठबंधन से, कि मीडिया से, ऑल ऑफ द अबव और नन ऑफ द अबव?
मैं कहूंगा कि मोदी जी is only a tough one. I don't know. Look, I think Modi ji is a leader who is conscious of his own shadow. He's a leader who is never going to admit his own weaknesses, insecurities in public. But like every politician, he's going to be wary of any potential roadblocks in the future. He's not going to. I keep saying this. Narendra Modi is not Morarji Desai. He's not going away in a hurry. So whether it's all the challenges you've listed out, he'll be conscious of each and every one of them. So I'm going to duck that question and say that, look, I don't know who he's afraid of, but he's conscious, I'm sure, of all these challenges that still lie around him. I don't see him taking his position for granted.
So, sir, the next book might be 2024, The Mummy, Oops, The Daddy Returns.
Daddy? Look, who knows? Who knows who will be on the cover? I'll just leave you with this thought. 2014, the cover had Mr. Modi and Rahul Gandhi.
Yes,
2019, the book had Mr. Modi and Amit Shah. So I don't know who will be there in 2024. I keep maintaining, in Indian politics, who knows what tomorrow brings. I've seen, this is a country where the worst thing you can do is predict the future with any degree of certainty. Either way, I'd like to believe that 2024 will be also an interesting election, but 3 years now, 3 years is a very long time in Indian politics. So and particularly in COVID times, I think the last 18 months should have taught us never to take anything for granted.
So in this book, ladies and gentlemen, the writer has very successfully assessed not only how BJP won, but also how BJP governs today. The book is simple and quite effective in its argument and structure. The best part of the book is that nowhere is a writer's voice throttled in the debate of positives and negatives. And it does not even force you to admit, but it tries to convince you with a broad spectrum view and various stories. It is Rajdeep Sardesai in his element with his rich experience as a journalist and a staunch political opinion. I'm glad he wrote it because अगर हम ना लिखते तो कब के राख हो गए होते, दिल के साथ रूह में भी सुराख हो गए होते. So thank you, sir, for your
Mona, that was
eloquent
wonderful.
insights.
Please, for last time, no sir. Next time, Rajdeep. Thank you.
Thank you for your eloquent insights, and DBF pragatiE Vichaar and Shabri Prasad for this wonderful, wonderful opportunity. And namaskar. We've exceeded our time, but it was so interesting that I couldn't hold myself back. I still have 5 more questions. Kabhi aur.
Thank you very much, Mona and Shabri and the entire team. All the very best. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.